Hi, Bob from Pinegrow here with the second video in our series on converting an HTML template to a WordPress theme. In this video, I'm going to be creating my first block from our HTML content, as well as looking at the output on the WordPress side and doing some further setup on putting together our entire theme. So let's get started. So since the last video, WordPress has made a major announcement that in 5.9, they're opening up full site editing. And what this means is that previously, as a developer, as a theme developer, you would put together a page and each of the elements on the page you would have to link up in the customizer so that the end user could change that content on the page. Going forward, WordPress is shifting away from this model, away from the customizer model, and instead is really stressing the use of Gutenberg blocks for every aspect of your theme. So in the last video, I talked a little bit about sort of switching back and forth during the videos between showing how to do things with the customizer and building blocks. And since WordPress has made this change, I don't think it's really valuable to dwell too much on the customizer any longer, because I think that is going to go away at some point in the future. So instead now we're just going to focus on putting together a variety of different blocks so that your end users of your theme, or even you as a front-end developer for a client, can easily put together a variety of sites. All right, so let's just transition over here. To remind you, as of last time, what we had done is we had activated our WordPress actions in our project, and we had taken the agency bootstrap template and we had divided it up by putting the site content action onto the main body of the page. And so what this does, again, is it's going to take everything that comes before this section and export it as the header.php file that will be included on every single page that has a header. And everything after the main content is going to be exported as footer.php to be used on each of the pages. So now that's going to basically create this three-part template. If we just take a very quick look back over at the WordPress side and go ahead and add a new post in. First post, whoops, and preview that. So what we can see is that we have basically the entire content of our agency page. By putting in that title, we can see up here on the tab, it now says first post. But if we go back now, I'm just going to close this out, and we go ahead and type something in here. And then go ahead and preview it. We don't see that content anywhere on this page. And that's because our template hasn't been set up yet to accept any kind of content. So we're going to have to do that. And then we're going to do one other thing, and that's we want to make each of these different sections, like this top hero section, into a block. And rather than do them on the main page and then say don't export, instead we're going to make a duplicate of the main page, do all of our block editing there, and that way we can just bring whatever blocks we want to, but not necessarily all of them, onto this main template page. Okay, so let's just switch back over here to Pinegrow. So again, we're going to duplicate this page and do all our work there. So to do that, we're going to go into our project panel. We're going to right-click on the index.html file, and we're going to duplicate it. And then we're going to give this a new name of block, or blocks, I guess, .html. So this is where we're going to work on all of our blocks. So when we make this, we're going to get a modal popped up, and it's going to ask if we want this new page, this blocks.html, to be a master page, and we don't. We want to use the original master page. And then in fact, within the page settings that will now pop up if you're in the WordPress Actions panel, is we want to not export this page. So this page is going to be for building our blocks, but it's not going to show up in our WordPress theme when we export. All right, so now we have that. So we can go ahead if we want. So let's go ahead and save this. Just gonna hit save all. And let's go back to our index page. So the next thing that we have to do is, well, the next two things we need to do are we need to get rid of the current content that's on the page, and we also have to set up the WordPress action that will bring in any content from our post, or if it's a page, any content from multiple posts to display on this template. And so basically what we're going to do is we're just going to open up our main section, and then we're going to go to the first one, the first subsection that's open here, and we're going to click on option. We're going to hold on option and click. That's going to close all the subsections, so we can then select them all and go ahead and hit delete. So now all we have on this template page is our header and our footer. So how are we going to get our post or page information onto this template? And in order to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add another section in. So to find that, I'm just going to go up into the search block in our library panel, and I'm just going to type section. That's going to bring this up, and I'll go ahead and place that right within the main. Then with this selected, I'm going to go to the WordPress Actions panel, and I'm going to go to the Post Smart Actions. And I'm first going to have it show posts. So basically this is going to add the main WordPress loop onto this section. And then within this, I'm going to add another section. And then on this one, I'm going to add the post content action. So what this is going to do is this is going to go ahead and put any of that post content into this loop. So let's go ahead and save this, and then go ahead and export it. So I'm just hitting the export hotkey. Now we're going to go back over to our WordPress theme. I'm going to go ahead and reload it. And then we're going to preview. And now what you can see is that we have the header and footer as we did before, but now we also have that content that we typed in the Gutenberg in paragraph block. So this is my first post. So that's going to go here in between the header and the footer. Okay, so now we have that going on. So let's switch back over to Pinegrow and start making our block. So again, we're not going to make any further changes to this template page at this time. We're just going to go ahead and click that out, and we're going to make our first block. So I'm going to go ahead and close the header down. And then again, on this first section, I'm just going to click option. I'm just going to option click to close that down. I'm just kind of neatening stuff up. So our first block is going to be this hero block right at the very top. And so what we're going to do is we're going to highlight that, and then we're going to close down the post smart actions. And instead, we're going to open up the blocks smart action. And we're going to go ahead and make this a block. So for each block, you need to have a main unique ID. So I tend to like within themes to go ahead and prefix my blocks. So I'm going to prefix this with PGC for Pinegrow conversion. And then I'm going to say hero. Now you can have a title. That's what's going to display when your user or yourself are selecting this from the Gutenberg blocks. So we're just going to call this top hero, I guess. You could add in a description if you want to. I'm going to skip that. But I am going to talk for a second about icons. So there's a couple of different icon sets that you can use, but they're used in different ways. So the main icon set that's normally used in producing WordPress themes are the dash icons. So if you browse the icons, you'll get a selection of 3 different ones. If we go ahead and click on WordPress dash icons, these will come up. You can select one from this list. So for example, say we wanted for a top hero, I don't know, maybe this one, the image. So this has a name of dash icons format dash image. So now if we go back to Pinegrow, you're going to leave off the dash icons and just type in the last part of the name. I think it was format image. No, I'm not sure. Yes, format image. Couldn't remember if it was format or formats. Go back to Pinegrow. All right, so that's going to put, that's if we want to use a dash icon. So you just remove that initial dash icon dash before the name of the icon. So if we want to use, if we want to use either Remix or Bootstrap icons, if we go ahead and click on this, it'll bring up either of those pages where we can look at those icons. And we can pick an image from here. Say we want, let's see, something similar. Okay, I'm not finding what I want, so I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a random one. Sure, a hammer. So if we click that, that's gonna bring up a box, a modal, that gives us a couple of possibilities. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna copy that SVG. Now we're gonna go back to Pinegrow. And then within this icon box, we're going to go ahead and paste that SVG. And so that's going to add that icon in for us. Okay, finally, getting down to category. So we're only going to have to do this potentially once for a theme or potentially multiple times, depending on how many subsets of blocks we want. So in this case, I'm going to go down to custom. And now I have to add in a category ID that needs, it should be under lowercase and contain only lowercase letters, numbers, and underscore. So I'm going to just choose PGC theme blocks. Oops. I need an underscore there instead of a dash. And I'm going to register that category. So when that way, this will show up in our editing panel. So you only need to do this once. You don't need to register it every single time. So now the category, again, we're just going to call it PGC theme blocks. And again, we get to choose an icon. And here again, you can browse and copy. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll use a Bootstrap icon this time. And in this case, let's go ahead and do we find something good? Trying to find something. Let's use a box. Sure. So in this case, we hit, whoops. In this case, we copy the SVG here. Go back to our Pinegrow. And go ahead and paste it in there. Okay, so had a slight glitch in recording, so you might notice a little bit of a jump since the last one. So I just gotten done putting in the icon, and at this point we could look at the more options, but let's go ahead and just save this and export it and take a look at what it looks like on the WordPress side, and then we'll come back. So go ahead and save. Oops, save. We're going to select all of those. So that was just, again, normally you probably wouldn't see those. I had a glitch and I had to go back and recreate some things in order to get back to this point in the tutorial. Go ahead and export the theme. So I'm just using the hotkey. Now we can go back over into our WordPress. Go ahead, reload that. Now when we go ahead and add a new block in, toggle the blocks editor open, scroll down to the bottom, we now have our PGC theme blocks along with our top hero. So I'm just going to click that. So now we can see that we have our top hero block in, but it looks kind of odd. So basically what's going on here is there's absolutely no styling. So this isn't true on the front end. So let's first take a look on the front end, then we'll go back and fix that. So we're going to save it, preview it. And you can see that our block comes in as expected, just like in our original template. The other thing I want to point out here is that right now, none of this is actually editable. So we also have to fix that. So let's fix the styling first. So we'll go back into Pinegrow and we'll look at these more options. So when you're going ahead and adding in some styling for your WordPress side, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. So one way is if you look under more options, you can see that there's several different potential things you can change here as far as the block type or where your blocks are stored, any keywords so that users can easily search for them. But you also have two inputs, one for style and one for editor style. The first one, the style input right here, is if you are bringing in a block that's sort of a one-off. So basically, if each of your blocks has its own style sheet, you're only going to want to include those style sheets on the front end if the user is actually bringing that block in. So by putting them into this box, that's what's going to happen. In our case, we're actually using, and then you'd also want to put this into the editor style. So again, that would bring that styling in for that particular block in the editor view. In our case, we're using Bootstrap to style all of these. So all of these are deriving their styles from the bootstrap.min.css. I think actually thinking about it, there might also be some styling in the block CSS. Yes, there is. So we're going to bring that in as well. So those, because they are linked to, both of these are linked to in our project already, they are brought in the headers. They're already being brought into the front end of our WordPress site, but we need to bring them into the editor end. So this is one way you could do it. But since we have multiple, blocks that we're bringing in that all use the same style sheet, we're going to do it in a slightly different way. So we're going to go to the WordPress menu and then go to the theme plugin settings. And below the blocks type, there's going to be an input box, editor style sheet 1. So for this one, we're going to go ahead and click on the folder. We're going to navigate to our project folder. So this is the second tutorial. So I named the project folder Tut2. And from within here, we're going to want to add in whatever style sheets are going to give the styling to our blocks. So in this case, we need to go into our Bootstrap and select the bootstrap.min.css. Once we select this, we're going to get an editor style sheet 2 input box. So in that one, again, it looks like we're also getting some styling from the blocks.css. So we're going to go ahead and select that. Okay, so now we have both of those added into our project. We're going to save the settings, and we're going to go ahead and once again export that theme. Now we'll go over into our WordPress instance, reload the editor, and now it's loaded in all of that styling. So now the block looks the same on, pretty much the same on the back end, and when we take a look on the front end. Okay, so we've taken care of that. Now let's make it editable. So we're going to go back in Pinegrow. Okay, so now back over here in Pinegrow, we're going to begin selecting each of the sections of the block that we want to be editable. So first off, let's go ahead and make this main title editable. So we're going to select it, then we're going to go over into our WordPress actions. And this time, since we're part of a block, we're now going to want to choose block attributes. So we go ahead and click on that. So remember, for each block, you need a unique ID. However, within the block, you can have IDs that are shared amongst blocks. So basically, I can have multiple attribute IDs, at least within an individual block, that are, for example, title. So block 1 can have a title, block 2 can have a title attribute, block 3 can have a title attribute. The attribute ID does have to be unique within a particular block. So I can't have 2 title attributes within a single block. All right, so in this case, we're just going to call this the hero title. Oops. We're going to use it to change the content since we're changing the text over there. And we're just going to give this a title for the user to be able to see. So right now, that's all we need to do in order to be able to make this editable. So let's go ahead and save that, export the theme, switch back over into our WordPress, go to the back end, reload this. Sometimes it will give you a message that you need to recover the block. In this case, it didn't. So now we can see that if we click in here, we can change that to whatever we want. So, and we can see that it edits over here within the block, but it also edits over here within the block property. So we can choose to edit it in either location. Okay, so now we have that. Let's go back over into Pinegrow and get some of the rest of it editable. So next, I guess we're going to want to be able to edit this lead text here. So again, we select it. We can either select it on the page or over here within the tree. Go ahead and click on that block attribute. Hero lead. Again, we're going to edit the content of that. Give it some kind of title. Now this time I'm going to open up the attribute options and take a look at what we can do here. So if we want, if it's empty right now, we're say to use the default value, and that default value is whatever text is in this box right now. If we don't want it to have any kind of default text within there, we can elect to remove the element if the end user hasn't put anything into that particular selection box. Whoops. So next up is the control type. So there's a couple of different control types, and Pinegrow will do its best to select what it thinks is suitable for the particular content or the particular element that's been selected. In this case, I'm going to select rich text. What that's going to allow us to do is if we want to make something bold or in italics or something like that, we'll be able to by electing to make this a rich text input. The expression is a little bit difficult. It basically allows you to have some pre-made text there that the end user gets to add in selected bits. So like, for instance, if we wanted to have these three words, feel, act, and communicate, to be changeable for different words, but we want the rest to be the same, we would basically put in to this expression our ability to, and then use some variable holders for each of these three words and then the rest of it. And I might come back to show you that. But it's a little bit of an advanced topic. And then help is if we want a help message to display to the user when they hover over that particular one. Okay, let's take a quick look. So we're going to save, export the theme, switch back over again, reload, select our block. And now we can see that we have another block property input over here. One thing right now, anyway, about WordPress is that if you do select a rich text input, you can't actually do it over here. You have to, well, you can, but you still have to use, for the different types of rich text, you either have to use key commands or go over here. So sometimes it's easier to say highlight it over here and bold it or whatever. You can see it does show up over here. It's just there isn't this floating tool panel to easily be able to see that. Okay, save that. Let's switch back to Pinegrow and let's do the buttons and the picture now. So for the buttons, go ahead and select that. Again, block attribute. This time you can see that Pinegrow has already detected that this is a link. An anchor link, so you can see that the actual type of element it is an A link, an anchor link. So it says to use as a link. So we'll change that first. So let's give it a descriptive attribute, button one link, button one link. And basically, I think we can just leave these as is because it's already being used as a link. So the control type auto should default to link. But we also want the user to be able to change this learn more. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a second attribute control to this particular element. In this case, we're going to say button text. We're going to use this content. All right, and that should be it for that button. Let's go ahead and do the second button as long as we're here. Block attribute. Button to link. Button to link. Add an attribute. Button to text, content. Button to text. Save that. Export the theme. Let's go see if that worked out. Go back over into here, reload. Select our block. And we can see now we have a button one link where we can add in our particular anchor link or a link out to another site or another page, and our text. Say if we wanted to switch those two, contact us and learn more. All right. Now the last piece for this block is this image over here. So let's go back over into Pinegrow. Select that image, and again, block attributes. So in this case, it's already detected, use as image. So we're going to say hero image. Hero image. And if we want to, we can select a different size for the default, or excuse me, for what we want. It's going to default to full size. We can also, if we want to, go back into our WordPress settings and our theme plugin settings and look at this section here, image sizes. So right now we can see that there are a number of different sizes already set by WordPress as defaults or as built-ins. So thumbnail, post thumbnail, medium, medium large, large. If we want to, we can change the size of any of those. We can also add in custom image sizes where we give it a particular name, say X large. Whoops. Only underscores allowed. Extra large, and we'll just grab their heights and we'll hit crop. Okay, so now when we save this, that's going to register this new custom size. But keep in mind that if you've already brought images into your media library, you're going to have to use some type of plugin or manually go through and resize all of those so that each image has the associated X large image size with it. Okay, so now we've got this. We're going to say if empty, use this image. The control type we're just going to leave as auto, although we could change it to image. We're not going to add in a full. I guess we could say our default is that X large that we just created. All right, so if we go ahead and save this, export, go back over into WordPress, go ahead and reload. So now this is the first time we've gotten this. This block contains unexpected or invalid content. 99% of the time, if you just click on attempt block recovery, it's going to go ahead and update that to whatever we exported. So normally when you're using a theme, you're not going to be updating and changing the blocks dynamically. You're going to, just be using the block, so you're not going to run into that. All right, so right now I actually don't think I do. I have one picture here in my media library. We're going to go ahead and click that. Normally I would put in, some alt text and things like that so that people that were using other types of assistive technology could see what this picture was, but for the sake of time, we're just going to put that in. All right, so right now I came in as medium. And the reason why I came in as medium is because, again, I didn't go through and rejigger all the sizes of the image in my media library prior to doing this. So right now, these are the only ones that we have available. So if we wanted to, we could change it down to a thumbnail. It doesn't look quite like medium large. We could fool around with giving that a little bit better look. But now you can see that this block really is mostly completely editable. Let's just preview that really quickly. Right now, I like the blue color, but maybe we should take a look really quickly to wrap this up at how we could change this background color. So let's go back over into Pinegrow. Oops. Let's go ahead and select the block. So right now you can see that that's set on this section, that blue color, by setting a class of bg-primary. Okay, so what we can do is we can take that, we can again add a block attribute, and in this case we're going to call this hero background. We're going to, in this case, because it's being added in a Bootstrap class, we're going to go ahead and use as class. And then we can change whatever class we want. So in this case, what we want to replace is that BG primary. And for background color, if empty, use the default value. Control type is going to be, I guess, input. And let's see what this gets us. So right now, this is going to be a pretty simplistic control. It's just going to allow us to replace that background primary with some other known Bootstrap class. So we're going to have to actually know what the class is. So again, save, export. Over here, let's close this down. So now if we reload, select our block, we now have a hero background color input box. So I think secondary. So we can now change that color. And basically right now, this is, I think, the only option that we have. I have to look to see, I don't know well enough if we can provide a whole list of classes for the user to pick from. I think we can. I just have to take a look at what that exact control is. And I think at the beginning of the next tutorial, I'll go into that. Okay, so that kind of wraps it up for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to convert a couple of other items on the page over into blocks. I think I'm also going to show you a couple of elements that aren't within the agency template and how to create them. So one thing that I know people talked about in the forum was creating an accordion, and I can show you how to do that in Bootstrap. And you should be able to then take that and sort of convert it over for using in Tailwind or your own framework. And I think that's as far as we'll get in the next tutorial. And then I think we'll have a fourth tutorial about looking at creating something other than that main template. So we'll bring some other pages in and create other templates for your user to use. So for example, this probably wouldn't be that great a template necessarily to use for your post archives or something like that. It's good as a standalone homepage or something like that. So yeah, we'll work on that a little bit. But until the next time, have fun designing with Pinegrow.